It is time for the morning announcements. My name is Gianna Palizzi with the information that is important to you. Today is Friday, January 12th, 2018. Howdy Trojans, we hope the week has treated you well. As a congratulations for all of your hard work this past week, Miss Sumner and Miss Mills have decided to give you a 3-day weekend. That is correct. There will be no school on Monday. Don't sleep in too much. We will be back bright and early on Tuesday. Here is today's lunch menu. Rotini, meatballs, and Rice Krispie treat. For all of you Trojans out there who do not know, Monday is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. MLK was a prominent figure during the civil rights movement of the 1960s. His view of nonviolent protest helped to pave the way for many Americans to gain rights that were once removed from them. For more information, take a look at this clip.
On August 28, 1963, 250,000 people gathered in the nation's capital for the historic March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. The march rallied Americans to stand up against the continuing political and social injustices African Americans still faced 100 years after emancipation. The march took place at a critical moment in the civil rights movement. Tension and racial unrest had been building up throughout the year, with anti-segregation demonstrators making headlines in Alabama and President John F. Kennedy announcing his intention to pass civil rights legislation. The timing was right for a massive demonstration. Due to security concerns, internal marshals were trained to ensure order within the crowd. But as it turned out, the marchers chose peace, not violence, that sunny Wednesday. The event featured speeches from prominent leaders and musical performances by Josephine Baker, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, Mahalia Jackson, and many others. The march is probably best remembered for Martin Luther King Jr.'s acclaimed "I Have a Dream" speech. But we bet you didn't know the real story behind those famous words. King was the last speaker that afternoon, but not because he chose to be. King only spoke last that day because no one else wanted to. When organizers of the march debated who would speak when and for how long, none of the other speakers wanted the last slot because they figured most of the news crews would head out by mid-afternoon. King agreed to go last and to limit his remarks to only 4 minutes. And he didn't have to worry about not making the news. The audience gladly stuck around for his 16-minute speech. And you might be surprised to learn that King hadn't even intended to talk about his now famous dream that day. During a pause in his prepared speech, Mahalia Jackson called out from behind the podium, "Tell him about the dream, Martin." She was referring to a theme King had touched on in a speech 2 months earlier in Detroit. Honoring her request, King departed from his prepared remarks and delivered the legendary speech we all remember today. Historians believe that the marches and King's speech were important catalysts in passing the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Today, a memorial marks the spot where Martin Luther King described his dream of a better America in one of the most influential and memorable speeches in American history.
We will see you all on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. That is all we have today. Tune in tomorrow for more news and updates. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and remain standing for the moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.